Hello, folks. Welcome to the Scum Dogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and I have another great show planned for us. We're going to be looking at monsters, hybrids, and, well, things from outer space. I'm your host, Chris Williams. But first, while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show off some artwork from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scum Dogs. At least I would. I forgot to bring the thing up. All right, let me bring that up here. We'll have some fun. So we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to be looking at various things. We're going to look at that. I don't want to go too much into it because I'm not just ready just yet. Let me get this right here. Still booting up. All right. But either way, we're going to have some fun tonight. And, well, if you can, please go and watch my show. Here we are. Let me get this up here. Get that there. And here we are. Let me get some more artwork up and stuff like that. And show off some more of my artwork from my graphic novel. Right, here we go. Here's my extreme 90s cover. It looks pretty good, huh? This cover I did harken back to the comic books of the 90s, and it looks pretty good. The name of my graphic novel is Scum Dogs. It's a parody of cartoons. The cartoons we all love and stuff like that, and you get like that. It's like 80s cartoons, like Transformers and the like and stuff. Now, the Scum Dogs themselves, the title characters, they're supervillains who are trying to take over the world. They're basically a parody of various villains from 80s cartoons. We have Deathmug and Buick Starpoon, who are my main characters. Deathmug being the main villain, and Buick Starpoon being his, in a moment you'll see. Deathmug is the guy in purple with the middle mask. He's a parody of various villains from 80s cartoons. Say, if you take, Cobra Commander and Serpentor from G.I. Joe. Like Cobra Commander, he's got a metal mask, and like Serpentor, he's got gold on him. And of course, he's purple, like the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's arrogant and overblown and wants to take over the world. And he was a former pro athlete because, there's a reason for that. See, the Scum Dogs are, as I've said, former pro athletes. In the future, there's such a thing known as the Scum Dog Sports. And they're held with superhuman monsters as the pro athletes. They're called scum and dogs because they're scum and dogs for trading in their humanity for money. That's what they do. They transform themselves into monsters through science or through some other means, more weird and strange, and become superhumanly powerful monsters. Now, Deathmug is a very parody of various villains from 80s cartoons. And, if you get the idea, because they traded in their humanity, the Scum Dogs aren't exactly the nicest guys around. Think of modern-day athletes. Now, give them superpowers, and you can see why, if they didn't get their way, they'd probably try to take over the world. Now, Deathmug, he's an arrogant, overblown moron who is your typical villain from an 80s cartoon. He wants to rule the world because, if they're not going to give him what he wants, he's just going to take it for himself. That's Deathmug. Buick Starpoon, his arch enemy, is basically a G.I. Joe parody. He's a parody of Duke from G.I. Joe, but he's also, see the uniform he's wearing? Anyone on this cover with a similar uniform to him is a member of his team in the Space Forces. He's also a parody of Space Heroes. Oh, I should say one more thing. Him and the rest of his team all have military specialties, like G.I. Joe have military specialties. And as I said, he's a parody of space hero type characters like Buck Rogers or Buzz Lightyear or other such characters like Buck Rogers again, as it say. Let's see in the other words. His specialty in the military, Buick Starpoon's specialty, is that he's a captain. Well, this guy over here with a mohawk in the uniform over here, his name is Roadhog. His military specialty is that he's an army guy. He was part of the army before he joined the Space Forces, so you get the idea. While this guy down here, the bald guy down here with a gun in the blue uniform, his name is Beach Pounder. His military specialty is that he's a Marine. While this guy back here in the red uniform firing his weapons, driving that heavy vehicle, his name is Blast Tank. He's a special vehicle. He's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. Now, this is one of 3 different variant covers you'll be able to back when my Indiegogo goes live. So when it goes live, you'll be able to back 3 different covers. Now we'll look at Girl Friday. Girl Friday is, a funny character. She's the second in command of Buick Starpoon. Girl Friday hates Buick Starpoon's guts, and she hates working with him. She was put on the Wild Rangers. That's the name of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. To basically be a babysitter, because while the Wild Rangers are heroes who save the day, they just do so much damage, it's unbelievable. So her superiors in the Space Forces assigned Girl Friday as the second command to basically rein them in and basically cut down on the damage they were doing to the surrounding area, because their idea of saving a town is basically to burn it down so the Scum Dogs can't take it. So you get the idea. Girl Friday hates her job because she thinks her career in the military is over because she's now basically a babysitter. That's Girl Friday. Now we'll look at, Death Mug's. We'll look at Death Mug's henchmen. Because in all 80s cartoons, the main villain, he'd have henchmen, guys who do his bidding, and these are Death Mug's henchmen. They're total idiots. The blue guy with the top hat is Murder Mouth, and the pink guy down here is Sloppy. There are a couple of idiots that destroy everything they touch, and they're just going to be one hell of a fun time to read when you back my graphic novel. All right. Here's Hair Metal Doctor. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me, and please hit that bell. Hitting that bell will give you, and also the part of it that gives you all notifications will give you all notifications for my future videos. This is Hair Metal Doctor. Oh yeah, also please share this video out on social media. This is Hair Metal Doctor. He's a parody of Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe and Mad Scientist, but my Mad Scientist here has been crossed over with a Hair Metal musician. Hair Metal Doctor thinks of all the mad gadgets and machines the Scum Dogs use to try and take over the world, and he also does it while looking at him, looks great, doesn't he? Here we have Miss Breasty Mullins. Miss Breasty Mullins is a parody of the Baroness from G.I. Joe. She's a party girl who wants to have fun. She became a villain because she thought she'd have a great time. Now the Hair Metal Doctor pinup and the Miss Breasty Mullins pinup will be included with other pinups in my graphic novel when you back it on Indiegogo. Scum Dogs when you go back it on Indiegogo. But I will also get these pinups out to you on T-shirts from Crypto Fashion as soon as I'm able to make it, okay? Looks pretty good, huh? Now, let me exit out of these right here, and we'll get some more fun. I should probably take a look at Indiegogo because I haven't done that for a while. But I haven't been live streaming in a while. If you have not yet, folks, hit that like button for me. It really helps me fight the algorithm. Let's take a look at Indiegogo real quick. All right. Let's see if there are any new Indiegogos up. Not too bad. Alien Alamos made $80,000. That's pretty good. All right. So this Stomp 2 comic book is still in demand. That's pretty good right there. Not too shabby. Let's go over here. Let's take a look at this. See if we can't find any more graphic novels that are up. Nerd. This. Not doing too bad. All right, get on here. Oh, there's C. Dunk Couldn't Kill Switch was made $26,484. Not doing too bad there. Grave Robbers, Cash Grab is still making money. It's pretty good there. Not doing too bad what we're seeing here. So not doing too bad. Let's see. Beard Zerker, a parody of Keanu Reeves, looks like it's Made some money. Got 15 days left. Not too bad. The Convictor, Hunter's Moon. Let's take a look at this. 28 days left. The artwork looks somewhat good. Not bad. I like what I'm seeing here. Let me look down here. Oh, here's artwork from the interior pages. Not bad. Not bad. That's Convictor, Hunter's Moon. Not bad. Looks pretty good. All right. Let's get on to what we were doing. I was going to talk about various things and various weird stuff. Let's see. UFOs, aliens, the paranormal. We can get back to a little bit. Or maybe I should look at, have I looked at this? UFOs, aliens, and the paranormal. We've talked about this before, but here's another article. It's an awful long one. Maybe I should get to that later. Let's see. Let me do this. I think I'll look at. Let's see. Oxford Professor Roman alien human hybrids. I could look at that. I was going to maybe. All right. Maybe I should just start off with. Let's go over here. I'll start with this article. Looking at alien human hybrids controversy. Reports of so-called hybrid children are particularly notable in the sense that encounters with these somewhat unsettling creatures more often than not follow certain distinct pathways, crop up time and again. There is, for example, the absurdly greater percentage of female abductees have had interactions with the hybrids than there are male abductees. There appears to be a very good reason for this. Under hypnotic regression, numerous women have reported being taken on board a UFO or on more than a few occasions to an underground installation where they are introduced to the hybrids. Of course, the underground component of little people adds to the centuries-old fairy encounters. Yeah. And the changeling phenomenon that has its undeniable parallels to today's UFO scene. In such situations, the women will either be laying on something akin to an operating room table, sitting in a chair that resembles a dentist chair, and it's then that something remarkable happens, although admittedly others might call it terrifying. As the abductee looks on, a group of 3 or 4 small alien greys will approach, with one of them holding in their hands a tiny baby that is not entirely human, even though it exhibits certain physical human traits. The abductee is then encouraged to take the baby from the grey and to cradle it. Researchers of the phenomenon have suggested, probably correctly, that the procedure is undertaken to try and instill an emotional bond between the abductee and the hybrid. If this all sounds very calm and tranquil, it often is not. Many of the female abductees who report this bonding process or attempted bonding were months earlier pregnant themselves. For a while, at least they were. There are many reports on record where a pregnant abductee has experienced a sudden unexplained miscarriage, a tragic event to be sure, or is there just an assumption they were miscarriages? Quite possibly, yes. Though those same abductees, when they're presented with a hybrid baby, develop sudden and unexplained suspicions that what they are being shown is the baby they were once carrying, in which they assumed had miscarried. In this scenario, the abduction researchers suggest the abductees are impregnated during an early abduction. They then carry the fetus for a number of months, and then it is removed from the mother during a later abduction and essentially grown in what we might call an artificial womb. Sensation, some might say outrageous scenario to be sure, but it's not a possibility that can be dismissed. The reason why is as amazing, as controversial as we, the human race, are now working hard, fast to develop artificial things like that, which I don't think is a very good idea, in all my opinion, because it sounds ghoulish and can be mishandled. The process of growing a fetus and bringing it to full term in an artificial room is called etogenesis. Much of the research is still in a theoretical stage because restrictions and regulations that govern the ethical or non-ethical use of human embryos and experimentation, but not all of it. As just two perfect examples, we have to first turn our attention to Japan. Experimentation undertaken at the Tokyo-based Gentaro University. The program was led by Yoshinori, the chairman of the Department of Obstetrics. The university, who was successful in growing goat embryos that were contained in a machine filled with amniotic fluid, a yellow-colored fluid containing the amniotic sac in which surrounds the growing fetus. Then there is the work of Cornell University's Reproduction Industrial Laboratory in 2003 and 2011. Significant success was had by sustained embryos in an artificial womb in the 2003 experiment. The embryo was that of a ape mouse 8 years later. However, it was nothing less than a human embryo, which was allowed to develop for 10 days, with 14 days being the absolute legal time limit on experimenting with human fetuses. There is, however, one potential disadvantage, and it may prove to be a big one. Should we, as a species, ever decide to go down this emotional pathway as a matter of the deep bonding? Yeah, there's something about there that is quite true between the mother and the unborn fetus that quickly develops when pregnancy begins, or in the future, what might very well be the distinct lack of that bonding. We see a 23rd century, 20th century in which, as a result of a factory-like environment, which babies are grown to order, specification, design, that bond is completely lost. Might we see the human race hundreds of years reduced to nothing but a cold, emotionless entities, in fact, just like the Greys, that will have no understanding or care of the emotional angle of what it means to be pregnant? Such a thing, given that research in the field is pressing ahead, is not at all. Not really. I think it'll fail miserably out of the question. The same situation may also explain why the Greys are forced to present hybrid children to human mothers, and in an effort to induce bonding, that the Greys are utterly incapable of comprehending how to make that bond themselves. Maybe. Could very well be, folks. What do you think? Leave me a few chats and let me your ideas on this. We looked at this. Could look at a few monster stories now, as well as creatures from outer space. We have a few other these weird things as well. Let's see. UFOs, alien, the paranormal, and how they are all connected once again. We could talk about that. I think we looked at this article before. Let's see. You could look at the skunk ape. We're about talking about this creature here. There's even a photo of it people have seen or hope to have seen. It could be a very real photo, but we can't be sure. Let's see. The skunk ape. Or I don't know what that word is. A bipedal humanoid, possibly a Bigfoot, reported in southern, eastern, and southeast, in the states and stuff, including Texas, Georgia, and Louisiana, but most notably in the Florida Everglades. It has black fur, glowing red eyes, unusual for most primates because the most primates lack a typtin lucium, like a layer of tissue behind the retina that reflects light. The skunk ape's most obvious character is its terrible odor, which grieves its name. The first ever sightings of skunk ape were reported throughout the 60s and 70s. In autumn 74, many reports filed in Data Country, Florida. 26 years later, autumn 2000, the police of Sarasota County, Florida, received a letter from an anonymous woman. Well, the letter were two attached photographs of what the woman said was an escaped orangutan who had been stealing apples from her back porch for 3 nights. These photos were later found to be taken near the Omiaka River, and the images were released, and the public cryptid enthusiasts dubbed the creatures of the photograph the Omiaka skunk ape. Most sightings of the skunk ape, like Bigfoot sightings, can be dismissed as black bear sightings. A black bear can stand upright, making it appear like another animal entirely. Bears are also known to rummage through garbage bins, which could explain the smell associated with this creature. The United States National Park Service considers skunk ape to be a hoax. October 28th, 2013. Oh, yeah, the National Park Service. They're so good in this world, basically making people give out information of what people have seen, like, say, how the missing 411, how so many thousands of people have disappeared in in America's national parks. That they're so good to be trusted. Let's see, 2013, a video title I think I saw, Skunk Ape Help, was uploaded to YouTube. It depicts a large hairy humanoid creature crouching in the water and pulling back bark off a tree with ease. Let's take a look at this. And here I thought this would be a bigger than what we saw. There's the skunk ape for you. It looks very weird. Looks like it could be real. Look at that. Look at that. Those teeth on it. Let's see. Explanations. An unknown species of ape, a bear of some sort that rummages through trash, although this would mean that the original sighting was a hoax, as fingers are visible in the skunk ape in that photograph, not claws. Popular Media, 2007, episode 9. Monster Quest was made about the skunk ape. Fun facts. The Miyake skunk ape photograph was primarily researched by renowned cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman. There's an official skunk ape headquarters in Florida. In 2012, skunk ape expert David Shirley appeared in a documentary about skunk apes on the Travel Channel. The skunk ape's foul stench is theorized to be caused by methane released by the swamps it resides in. The fur absorbs it, the pungent methane, and releases the odor. Here are other pictures of him. Let's see this. That could very well be a real ape, or it could be a guy in a bloated suit. Not really. Doesn't look quite right. Think it's real? Don't know. Could be something else, though. There's some pictures, Skunk Ape, and something like that. Here, let's try this. There's another picture of that. Yeah, this certainly does look like it could be something. It doesn't look like a bear. Do you think it's a real photo? Could be. The skunk ape. We looked at some story at yesterday, but who knows what this creature could actually be. Right? So it could very well be. And it could be a hybrid itself, or something. So maybe look at something else now. Here's another story on, alien hybrids. Let's go look at this. Says a story appeared online in 2015 regarding a dead body found decomposing in a car in Los Angeles. A search of the dead man's house by police revealed over 1,000 guns and various other weapons, almost $250,000, and a huge stockpile of ammunition were also in his possession. Furthermore, he owned a total of 15 vehicles, one of which was bulletproof and very much high-tech. These details aren't even the strange part. The man, named as Jeffrey Allen Lash, led an apparent secret life. According to his fiancée, he was an alien human hybrid working for the government. Kathleen Dibrin released a statement, though her attorney saying that she believed him to be an employee of an unnamed government body. It was Lash himself who had given instructions to leave his body in the car. When he died, he had stated a government agent would collect him, and that Dibrin was to leave town as soon as possible following his death. Could it be real, folks? Don't know, but wow, that's a. An employee of Neiman's, Dawn Budbecker, also found herself tied up in the affair. She had recently left her husband barely a year to join Lash and Neiman in their seemingly bizarre fantasy. She would rent garages for Lash's mini vehicles. She claimed this was in case other agents needed to use of them at short notice. Both women made their way to Oregon when Lash died. California, Neiman returned 2 weeks later, and only when she found his body where she had left it did she notify police. Incidentally, Budbecker later surfaced in Oregon, but the last report says that she refuses to return home or speak with her family. Some quickly pointed out that Lash was nothing more than a con man who had convinced multiple women that he was a secret alien hybrid agent. His body also displayed signs of being in the late stages of cancer, although his cause of death is officially unknown. There are some interesting questions surrounding Lash, although while there is no criminal record to speak of, no one can establish how he came by his quite extensive wealth. It also seemed to be suspicious. That is quite true. How did this guy get this much money? It does sound like he'd be working for something. Some of that, although his body remained unreported for several weeks, the police have at no stage suspected foul play. Could there be more to Lash's story than most of us would give him time or credit for. It certainly isn't the first time that people have made wild yet specific claims of secret hybridization programs involving the United States military. Yeah, and if that's true, that needs to be stopped. You don't need stuff like this running around. Past military links. Past the military, huh? Programs. The story of Eddie Page is perhaps equally baffling as Lash's. Although Page claims he has proof of his part alien DNA, Page recalled the details of his strange past with the help of hypnotic regression. According to Page, his whole existence is part of a top secret experiment carried out by the U.S. government and an alien race. His father is an extraterrestrial from the Pleiades star system. Okay. Page even goes as far to claim he has medical records showing his blood group as undetermined. Furthermore, he states his military documentation officially states that he's not of human origin. This experiment took place in the early 50s with the U.S. government receiving advanced alien technology in return for citizens. Page claimed that a total of 32 alien human hybrids came into being as a result of the experiment. He has done extensive research and believes that only 8, including himself, are still alive. Page spoke of an experience including being rescued from the battlefield of Vietnam by an alien craft to the UFO Chronicles, which you can see, huh? Cynthia Crawford made a remarkable similar claim when she stated she was the result of a secret government experiment. According to Cynthia, who lives in Arizona, her father had experimented with alien devices he received from crashed alien ships while based in Korea in the early 1950s. Crawford goes on to say that the human mother became artificially impregnated with part of her biological father's genes and part alien genes. For that reason, my DNA is only 34% human, she told that Sun newspaper in 2011. According to me, according to what I know about alien lore, the Pleiades, the Pleiades are basically humans in outer space. They're completely human. So you say you only have 34% human DNA. Does that mean only 34% human DNA from Earth? Because as I understand it, that the reason they can interbreed with humans is because they are human. They just might have supernatural powers for some odd reason. Maybe because even though they're human and their DNA is completely human, maybe they've awoken to something. Could very well be. According to Crawford, she has many UFO and alien experiences throughout her life. She believes these connect back to the program that she is part of. A grave warning. Not all of these kinds of claims came from tabloids, though. David Jacobs, for example, carried an extensive research into the alien abduction phenomenon, releasing several books on the subject. All of his books have been published by respected publishers. The fact Jacobs, having taught American history at Temple University for 3 decades, gives him a little bit of credibility in such a fringe field. Jacobs came to the conclusion that aliens had been abducting humans for hundreds of, not thousands of years. Perhaps more importantly, he believes the reason for this is that they are preparing to take over the world, according to Jacobs. And there's only 8 human hybrids that are still alive. And apparently it must be very hard to make these hybrids. They're going to take over the world. Could very well be. They could. They could try to take over the world. I have my doubts, though. It depends on your definition of takeover and stuff like that as well. But then again, I don't think there should be alien hybrids, period. Because, well, as he said, I'm not so sure about alien taking over the world, but I certainly don't like having aliens alter us for their own reasons. So I really detest this idea as well. Well, maybe I shouldn't should I? Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say that, this shouldn't happen because I dislike the idea of humans basically, or aliens basically trying to make us what they want, have aliens try to make us what they will of us, or make us do what they want. Reckoning, alien human hybrids are walking among us right now, and they aren't friendly. His research suggests that female abductees suffer artificial impregnation, then their fetuses later removed. The story of Linda Jones from Manchester, England, is just one example of an account that has all the hallmarks. Highlighted by Jacobs. On a late summer evening in 1979, Lydia and her 2 young children were picking flowers while walking along the river Mersey. One of her children suddenly exclaimed to his mother that the moon is coming towards us. Jones claimed she barely made out the disc-shaped object heading towards them. Initially captivated by it, Jones soon came to her senses, scooped up her children's hands, and ran. Only when they were safe at home did she realize that she couldn't account for around 90 minutes of time. Hypnotic regression allowed Linda to recall a floating sensation before she found herself in a room with 3 figures with large black almond-shaped eyes. The weeks that followed, Linda sought medical advice due to her severe changes in her menstrual cycle. Following an examination, it came to light she had recently been pregnant, but had suffered an ectopic pregnancy. Linda insisted that there must be a mistake. There wasn't, at least according to the medical evidence. Was Linda a mystery fetus, seemingly removed at her knowledge, part of the so-called alien human hybrid thing going on? The extensive work and research, David Jacobs. We will stay with David Jacobs and his research ideas for a little longer, and some of the suggestions and theories of Jacobs are fascinating in the extreme. In short, it is Jacobs' conclusion that these extraterrestrials plan to become the dominant race on the planet, essentially to take out control of the Earth. And if they try it, we need to fight them with everything we got. I have my... Is that really what they're going to do? It really feels like there's something going on, but we don't actually know what, because people are seeing UFOs all the time and stuff. By creating alien-human hybrids, the more we explore the theory that the more bizarre but equally captivating it is. As Jacob himself writes, "Walking among us, the alien plan to control humanity is rather on the shaky ground with such assertions they have power been arrived at through years of extensive research, and with many who claim to have been repeatedly abducted by extraterrestrial entities." Jacobs would write in Walking Among Us how he interviewed those he claims to have been abducted. He writes for a pattern to emerge, elaborating how he waits until he hears multiple descriptions of the same phenomenon, and that these are the most important aspects of abduction investigation. Indeed, if Jacobs is correct in his research, then our understanding and perception of the UFOs and alien question may be changed drastically, as will the urgency in our collective need to reach that understanding, something that would sit nicely in the realms of, well, stuff we read and stuff. There's a little doubt that the general suggestion and apparent accounts of Jacobs would sit more nicely in the blockbuster movie or high-profile, well, if any blockbuster movie, or, well, a science fiction series. Essentially, it is most basic, not only that many people around are being abducted by aliens for experimental purposes, but they are also essentially being used to train the aliens to live here on Earth. Yeah, all right, maybe. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me. Really, it helps more people see. It helps me fight the algorithm as well as more people will see my videos if you hit that like button. As well as make sure to hit that bell, as well as hit the part that gives you all future notifications for my videos. And please share this video on Twitter and Facebook. Well, Twitter and social media. Here on Earth, in anticipation of this change, as they do so for the most part against their own will. To live here on Earth in anticipation of this change as they do so for the most part against their own will. This last detail might be, that is something, isn't it, folks? I might have to read that again because, that is very weird. So we're having the people here basically against their will that have these creatures live here on Earth in anticipation of this change, and that they do so for the most part against their own will. This last detail might be one of the most intriguing notions, that these extraterrestrial entities, including those that are half alien, half human, have the power to make humans carry out actions against their own will, often without them realizing it. Might this control explain why many people do not recall abductions, and at least some of them go to whatever location that might take place in essentially of their own accord? And might this mental control one day be used against us, perhaps in mass? There are, though, many blank areas in just what is going on behind the scenes of these abductions, and the apparent end goal that there is to them. To this part, and due to abductions only seeing what they need to see, and partially because they are likely underground some kind of memory blocking procedure of the experience, something that comes up in alien abduction research. Jacobs again reveals some intriguing details of these alien environment, though, in Walking Among Us, who recalls the account of Allison, who had separated herself from her alien hybrid escort and found herself in a strange room containing a semicircle around 40 tilted block coffin-like boxes. Even more chilling, these boxes contain grays immersed in a liquid. As Elizabeth studied the scene in front of her, the boxes suddenly moved and tilted forward slightly. As they did so, the liquid drained from them and the fronts opened, and following this, the gray alien stepped from the containers. When her escort discovered her and took her out of the room, he replied to her when she asked what had been taking place in the room, with that the aliens were eating and sleeping. As Jacob notes, while he wasn't sure what to make of the sleeping aspect, gaining nutrition through dermal absorption is consistent with other accounts in his files. I need to learn of human existence. Well, I need to learn of human existence. The notion that comes through when reading the suggestion accounts of Jacobs is the sheer confusion on the part of these apparent alien beings at the complexity and intricacy of the human existence. Perhaps especially so in the modern world. Everything from living in a house or an apartment who you might live in the residence with, to where you buy foods, why and where you would keep them in your home. And that is just a snippet. Of what these potential new dominant species on our planet similarly wish to learn. The main issue that comes through all of this is that their need to understand the rules of humanity. There's something that perhaps reveals much of the alien society and existence that the individual aliens are perhaps anything but, and it's to exist with a much more collective hive mentality. And maybe you have to fight a bit against them with everything we got. In fact, Jacob writes in Walking Among Us that aliens come from a collective society in which individuals and personal lives are virtually non-existent. Furthermore, he names two specific alien and sectilians and grays who have limited and narrow emotional ranges. Perhaps because of this, there is also a lack of sarcasm, irony, humor within these alien societies. Furthermore, although he isn't certain, Jacob states that it is possible that no art form exists in alien society, nor might any form of entertainment. The only such hint of these things are the children's toys that are used to train hybrid alien children. In short, while these extraterrestrials are more advanced in many ways from their technological know-how, their ability to communicate telepathically, their existence is a simple and uncomplicated one, perhaps especially so when compared to the multi-layered human existence. Training hybrids. When we examine some of the situations these abductees would recall of their training sessions with extraterrestrials, we begin to see Albert Partial, a bigger picture form in front of us. There is two. Maybe I should reread that. When we examine some of the situations these abductees would recall of their training sessions with extraterrestrials, we begin to see Albert Partial, a bigger picture form. Okay. For example, every aspect of human society is examined and then taught by these abductees to the alien human hybrids, sometimes in a one-on-one situation and sometimes with several hybrids at a time. And these training sessions take place in multiple locations. Some, it would appear, take place on board alien spacecraft, often in rooms that have been made to look like a restaurant, shop, or even a bar. These sessions usually involve several hybrids at a time who are put in situations that the abductee would then teach them how to react in. For example, when to join in a conversation, when to stay quiet and listen to, or when to introduce yourself to someone and why. Others take place on Earth in an actual real location. For example, one account told of an abductee having to take an alien human hybrid who looks exactly like any other human, remember, to a supermarket so they could train and practice shopping. The abductee guided the hybrid around the store, showing them different foods and produce. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me, as well as please go share this video on social media. Checking here. We have a few more likes. Thank you for that, folks. Others take place on Earth in an actual real location. For example, on a account told of an abductee having to take an alien human hybrid who looks exactly like any human to a supermarket so they could train and practice shopping. The abductee guided the hybrid around the store, showing them different foods. The intriguing details that resurfaced during this session perhaps tell us that the sheer scope of the job of teaching to an alien to be human, and more importantly from the hybrid's perspective, nor not standing out from the crowd, everything from what amount of food and drink, then by, to the hybrid asking if they had to open every packet of food to check it when the abductee opened a tray of eggs to check that none were cracked. Even paying for the goods demonstrates just how much this apparent alien race have to learn if they wish to go about their business under the guise of being a human. When the abductee attempts to teach the hybrid when would it be appropriate to count out exact change, and when it would be the best to use the nearest roundup dollar bill and wait for the change exchange instead. Such a thing is second nature to anyone on Earth, but for these extraterrestrials, like many other things we take for granted, they don't know the rules of such engagement. In fact, knowing the rules of something that these alien human hybrids appear to have a hard time truly understanding. What's more, if these revelations are true and such a takeover of our planet is being planned, possibly even underway, might present us with the opportunity to fight back should we need to. Most definitely, that is true. We have mentioned that these training sessions are undertaken by hybrids using some form of discrete mental control. Essentially, they have no choice in carrying out these lessons, even though they are aware, at least while in their company, that the end result will be taken over the planet. These alien human hybrid race and stuff. However, the lack of understanding of the multi-layered complexity of human existence, as well as the fact that each of us are very much an individual with their own unique view of the world, and indeed our reality, might offer humans an opportunity to defend themselves against this apparent looming takeover. Essentially, the need for this extraterrestrial race to have strict rules to follow and live by could be taken advantage of and worked against this hybrid race. Might it be possible, for example, to simply plant false knowledge and information in the mindsets of these alien hybrids and in turn their extraterrestrial rulers? Perhaps a coming together of these involved would be required, and most definitely a need for a predetermined plan and strategy. However, even such a suggestion reek of the movie fantasy-like quality and are most likely be dismissed as unreservedly as not being real. Well, I don't want to say that. We need to fight them, and yeah, it could work, because they don't really understand us, and that is definitely something we can use. In fact, the main, dismissed, as being not real. That we could, most definitely, I think we could fight against these guys, because, as I said, they don't really understand, and that could be a good boon for us. In fact, the main obstacle will perhaps prove to be that general collective human mindsets that tends to reject such notions as laughable and beyond bizarre. And while it is hard to argue against that, at least convincingly, it might prove to be a mindset that proves to be our collective undoing. Yeah, we don't believe that something like this could happen. That it could be our undoing, that if we don't take this seriously, if we do find evidence of it. Which is why maybe the government's getting ready to say that aliens exist. Mainly because they can see an opportunity that if knowledge of it gets out, even though the aliens think they're in the winning position, they think they know enough that they can dominate and basically control us. That if we get the knowledge out of what these aliens are and how they do this, we might be able to resist them, maybe even definitely. Most definitely, I could say that could happen. Too bizarre to contemplate, huh? What should we make of the seemingly outlandish claims of David Jacobs? As bizarre as they might be, as they certainly make a certain amount of sense. For example, if alien abductions are generally taking place where experiments are undertaken, the idea of an end goal of these extraterrestrials preparing themselves to take over the planet would fit nicely into why this is happening. And while such an assertion does indeed come straight out of science fiction script, it is one that, if we do adopt the alien abduction phenomenon to be real, we should perhaps consider. We should also remind ourselves that many of the other people and researchers have arrived at similar theories and conclusions. While we should treat each of these with a certain amount of salt, the idea that there is an alien presence, possibly involving alien human hybrids, is one of the most widespread than many of us might think. If these theories are indeed true, is there anything we can do to alter our apparent fate? Yeah, I do think there is a way to do that. How long will such a changing of the guard in terms of rules of the planet take? Might, for example, such a change take place over such a long period of time for human life that basically goes by unnoticed until it's too late? Might this change already be underway, however discreetly, with those who might attempt to highlight them being laughed at and shouted down by those with a more grounded view of the world? Such theories and suggestions will undoubtedly continue to be explored as long as such unexplainable encounters of alien abductions continue to take place and be researched. We have to remember that these claims come from multiple people who, for the most part, have no known contact with each other. What's more, the details of their revelations match at times almost perfectly and in turn form a pattern for us to recognize. Read, as uncomfortable as a notion as an alien takeover of planet Earth might be to most, is something that we should keep on the mental back burner. The corroborative findings of Bud Hopkins. We have to examine the work of the late UFO researcher and writer, Bud Hopkins. Several previous articles, indeed, Hopkins has investigated and brought to the wider world some of the most intriguing and at times unsettling UFO cases on record. What is interesting to us, though, are some of the conclusions he reached that appear to corroborate those of Jacobs, that the reason behind alien abductions is some kind of alien breeding program. All right. Let me go back over here real quick. Let's see, 46 minutes in. Let's see, have you guys hit that like button for me? Not doing too bad here. Let me refresh this to make sure if anyone else is... All right, let's go back over here. When writing about the experience of three women, one of whom we examine in a little more detail shortly, none of whom were aware of their other's experience nor know each other, who, after recalling UFO abduction encounters, Hopkins hints at a remarkable if grim conclusion. All three women have either had dreams or normal recollections of having been shown at later times tiny offspring whose appearance suggests they are something other than completely human, that they in fact are hybrids, partly human and partly what we must call, for what a better term, alien. Hopkins continues that while it is unthinkable and unbelievable to consider such a notion, it appeared clear that the evidence points to that direction. He would summarize that it very much appeared that an ongoing and systematic breeding experiment must be considered one of the central purposes of UFO abduction. Perhaps one of the most incredible claims came from Debbie Jordan Cabell, was given that the fake name of Kathy in the book. She would state to Hopkins during the course of his investigation that though she has two young sons, she also knows she had a daughter that they showed her to me. It is there we will turn our attention to next. Debbie. In the book Intruders, Hopkins tells of the conversation and subsequent hypnotic regression of revelations with Debbie. Although naturally recalled memories of a lifetime of strange encounters, she revealed to Hopkins of her knowledge of a daughter she had, a girl that lived with her abductors and had essentially part alien, and it was this revelation that arguably began to bring all of the pieces of her strange encounters together. This for Hopkins. Yeah. Debbie would recall and elaborate on these claims in much more detail. She recalled at first she was in a room that was all white and there were several little gray guys in the room with her seemingly surrounding her. Then a little girl came to the room, escorted by two more gray aliens. She would estimate that the girl was around 4 years old and that she did look like them, but she didn't look like us either. Although she recalled she was real pretty, she would claim her skin was partially pale and that her head was a little larger than normal, particularly so in the forehead. The next thing she knew, two squirting grays were walking the girl toward her. She would reveal that while the little girl almost smiled at her, she was also a little nervous too. Perhaps also of interest that she recalled a feeling in the room that everyone was happy with me. This is perhaps intriguing as it suggests some kind of need on the alien's part for Debbie to participate in some way in the best interest of the child. Of course, as we have examined before in the research of David Jacobs, this is something that many who he has spoken with have also claimed. What is also interesting is that when Debbie was asked if she could only remember these events with the aid of hypnosis, she would probably know it was almost like they let me remember, elaborating that it is almost like someone felt sorry for me when Debbie did undergo hypnotic regression, though the details were even more intriguing. She has to stay here. The alien girl, huh? Under hypnotic regression, Debbie once more recalls being in the happy room. A man is with her, and after she has seen the young girl who she knew was her daughter, she told her that you can't take her with her. that the child wouldn't be able to live. She continues that according to the man, she wouldn't be able to feed her, and that she has to stay here with us. But that she has a very much a part that she was very much a part of Debbie. It is unclear if this man is a human alien or perhaps a hybrid himself. It is also unclear if he is the father and just how this young girl was conceived. What is interesting, though, is perhaps that alien human hybrids might not be able to live a fully human life, fully human existence, due to their part alien genes, unless, of course, this only plays during childhood. Debbie would, however, recall more intricate details of the appearance of the young girl. Example, she said she had white hair, that she was sparse and unevenly distributed. What's more, it hung down something of a tangle, as if they don't know what to do with it. This once again suggests that whatever these extraterrestrials are, they simply need knowledge on simple to us aspects of human existence. Other detail recalled that the child had ears that were lower on her head than they should be, while more recalling of how her head, particularly the forehead, was a little big. She would also remember that she was wearing something white, like white silky stuff that was kind of shiny. This futuristic garment was seemingly pulled over her head and draped over her shoulders right to the floor. Debbie would also hint that there was an apparent telepathic connection between herself and the young girl. This detail of telepathic communication is another detail that often surfaces in UFO and alien encounters. Then, after the young girl and the gray aliens left the room, Debbie was placed on a raised platform. Suddenly, she could see different colors, and the whole room began to shimmer. The next thing she realized, she was awake and laying in the grass in the garden outside her parents' home, where she was living the time and incident following her divorce. More hybrid cases than we might think. There are a wealth of apparent alien abduction encounters that contain hints that an apparent alien-human hybrid was shown grown, at least temporarily, in the wombs of unsuspecting women around the world. Yeah, probably. We have written before, for example, the intriguing case of Linda Jones, who was ultimately told following that what was eventually revealed to have been an alien abduction incident, that she had suffered an ectopic she miscarriage, even though she had no knowledge of being pregnant. Although she was adamant that she had not been pregnant at the time of the abduction, further examination would indeed reveal scarring on her fallopian tubes. She would state that while she didn't have an explanation for the apparent pregnancy or loss of the baby, she knew that something strange must certainly have taken place. Perhaps also of interest as a result of these revelations, she began to realize that other odd things had happened during her life. Essentially, she had likely been abducted by these apparent aliens before. Let me see how far that we got left to read on this. Just real quick. Ooh. Almost there. All right. Not that much more. All right, let's go back up here. The last detail we know surfaces a lot with the victims of alien abduction and could indeed suggest some kind of systematic brain program used in the same individuals. Okay, this last detail, I'm going to read this again. As we know, surfaces a lot with victims of alien abduction and could indeed suggest some kind of systematic brain program used in the same individuals over the course of their lives. There is also the case of Brett Olden and Dan Swanson, who would claim they were being both abducted from Las Vegas in 1987, while Diane was pregnant. Following several experiments, the couple would claim that their alien abductors took their unborn child directly from Diane's womb. What's more, when Diane was examined by a medical specialist, they would state that there was the appearance that the unborn child had been surgically removed. Olden and Swanson's story took an even bigger, stranger twist 3 years later, when Olden would claim to have been abducted once more. On this occasion, he would claim to have met the stolen child who was on board the spacecraft with the person he also claimed it was an alien human hybrid. They don't understand, but they will. If we turn our attention back to the research of Bud Hopkins for a moment, It is interesting how his writings and conclusions sit nicely with other researchers' views on a possible breeding or hybridization program. For example, he notes that the child that Debbie witnessed while around 4 or 5 years old was significantly smaller than an average child of that age. This, he writes, is more in keeping with the reported height of UFO occupants than with the size of other typical humans. Hopkins, much like Jacobs, also speaks of a pattern appearing in the many alien abduction cases he has examined, whether we like it or not. These patterns are tight and clear. Another detail that Hopkins highlighted that resonates with the research of Jacobs appears that one of the reasons for allowing Debbie to meet her child was so that they could observe something about human touch and human emotion. He would even go on to describe her apparent role as an instructor. Debbie herself would state to Hopkins that it has something to do with the touch and human part they don't understand, but they will. Well, maybe they won't. Let's see. This here. All right, there. Debbie would further state, while her hybrid child, another hybrid, was watching me inside and out. What's more, this hybrid being was absorbing everything like a sponge, everything about her emotions, gestures, thoughts, and reactions. Hopkins would observe that these handlers of hybrid children were observing how she handled the infant to nurse it. He would continue that these alien visitors, despite their obvious technological superiority, are desperate for both human genetic material and the ability to feel human emotions. Hopkins also speculates that the very survival of this alien race may depend entirely on the success of such programs. Hopkins would further asks the question why this kind of hybridization program is happening in the first place. For example, he asks whether they are systematically reducing the difference between them and us so that they can acclimatize their species to our planet and our atmosphere, or do they wish to acquire some of our genetic characteristics for themselves? It is perhaps interesting to note that while Jacob's ultimate conclusion is one of an extraterrestrial angle that is far from beneficial for humanity as a whole, Hopkins, at least during his Thoughts and Intruders, remains open to the possibility of nonviolent merging of their civilization and ours. Hopkins, for example, ponders whether there might be a peaceful merging. And I just like that idea too. I don't care about peaceful merging. I kind of want us to be who we are. We're human and we should remain human. But that doesn't mean we can go to war either. Or it doesn't mean we shouldn't go to war either. I just like the idea of being transformed by anybody. I think humans should remain human. Of our civilization is theirs, or whether it will be conducted by a more sinister, covert manner. He even considers whether, if you find what I just said confusing, folks, we should go to war if we want to basically remain who ourselves, and not even if it's a peaceful merger, not let them basically do with us as they will. If I said basically maybe it should happen or to get the idea of it, I really don't. If it means basically being against our wills, turned into alien hybrids, I think we should fight with everything we got and keep ourselves human. Let's see. He even considers whether it might be the case that they simply wish to enrich their own stock and then depart as mysteriously as they arrived. Well, they could be. They may just want to make themselves more emotional and stuff like that. This last part is perhaps an interesting one to consider. For example, let's imagine the aliens are ourselves and we are a species of animals, some remote place in the world that contains something with their genetic makeup that we hypothetically needed for our survival. Could we venture out there and take what we need, taking care in this day and age of accountability and social media to hold people to that, not to cause any unnecessary suffering or deaths, and then leave such a species relatively unharmed and ignorant of what has taken place? Perhaps this is what is taking place here with alien abductions and UFO visitation. However, there is perhaps one other explanation, and it is not one that sits nicely with the potential and speculative what happens with the future of the human race. Regardless, it is there where we will turn our attention to next. For example, it is uncomfortable as it might be that a failure to contemplate such a notion might prove to be our ultimate undoing, a truly sobering moment. Odin's claims of his second abduction being what he believed to have been his and Diane's child are perhaps particularly intriguing for several reasons. Most often, the mothers of their stolen children are usually abducted repeatedly. As bizarre as it is, sounds in order to instruct and teach these extraterrestrials what they need to know in regard to the human part of the child. And secondly, these alien-human hybrids are often, if we subscribe to the theories, if only for a moment, exactly that alien-human hybrids, one part human, one part alien. This perhaps leads to another question. If we accept that such hybridization programs are indeed a reality of the UFO and alien question, then we might ask if these such hybrids are a combination of their human mother and father with alien DNA and added at some point during these apparent abductions. Let's see. Let me do it down here. Or whether they are straight mix between the human mother and what essentially be the alien father. Or might we consider that there might be a female extraterrestrial that have alien human hybrids with purely human fathers, or using the samples that are seemingly taken during abduction incidents? As with all aspects of UFO and alien encounters, the more questions that are asked, the more questions that surface, and most of which have no answers. Perhaps what should be most sobering of all, as well as the above theory suggestion and claims of human-alien hybrids are, and that these cases also contain numerous and other corroborating details of alien abduction encounters. These range from the memories that are recalled as a meeting near a car or a house that is revealed to be a spacecraft of some sort, the typical round rooms such examinations take place, and in the fact that such rooms are well lit, but with no apparent source for the lighting, such as a bulb or lightning stripe. Surely such a trivial detail is recalled multiple times by so many people have over decades of time is an indicator of credibility and genuine acts that have happened. In short, then, if these, by comparison, more mundane details of UFO human alien abduction cases corroborate with each other and lend such encounters credibility, then surely we would have to give the claims of a systematic breeding program to produce alien human hybrids the same courtesy. And if there is any truth to such claims, what does that mean for us as in a whole? All right. Star Child. Other people speak in much more positive tones. Very recently, a bizarre story first surfaced online concerning the young women from the United States. Both claimed they had multiple star children with aliens who resided with their fathers in a state of suspension and perpetual childhood on spaceships in outer space. Bridget Nielsen stated that she has regular contact with all 10 of her hybrid children. Alun Verse, on the other hand, states that she has 3 otherworldly offspring, each produced drawings of their children, stated that they are part of a group of many people of cosmic children. It is the hope that Nelson and Verse and others like them, that they can one day find a spot or land where they can live together with their own community. This, they believe, will make it possible for their children to physically visit them, as they will feel safe to do so. It is their belief that these children are almost beacons of hope for humanity. Maybe. Maybe not. I have my doubts. People call these children star children. Not all claims of star children rely on only sketch drawings. However, Nikki, for example, believes her own daughter, Maddie, is such a child. According to her book, Children of the Stars, she states that she believes Maddie carries alien DNA. On top of this, Maddie has displayed capabilities, and she might have alien DNA. It depends. If they're Pleiadians, the human aliens who look completely human, her DNA might be human, but it might come from a Pleiadian who is basically a humanoid alien. That means they look completely like a regular human, and that her DNA does come from outer space. But if you were to scan it, it would scan as completely ordinary human DNA. But it could be the father does have strange alien powers, and those could be inherited by the daughter. Let's see. According to her book, let's read this part. Children of the Stars. She says that she believes Maddie carries alien DNA and like that. Far beyond her, displayed capabilities far, far beyond her age, and she even stated to her mother that her home is in the sky. And In the book Abducted, the true story of an alien abduction, Anne Andrews and Jean Richard, co-author, and Anne made some remarkable claims, which more on those claims were about her own son. Much criticized at the time and since, the pair stated that Jason Andrews not only had remote viewing capabilities, but also carries their alien DNA, which in turn attracted extraterrestrials to him. The first instance of anything out of the ordinary occurred on sunny July afternoon, 87. In Kent, England, Jason was celebrating his 4th birthday with his parents, Anne and Paul. Out of nowhere, a sudden thunderstorm overtook the sky, sending lightning through the clouds that arrived with great elasticity. Perhaps even more alarming for Anne and Paul, however, was that at the very moment the storm began, Jason began to mutter to himself. It sounded as though he was chanting, but he was saying that what his family thought were random number sequences. They took note of the numbers, as he was saying. When he examined later by the investigators, the number proved to be complex mathematical equations, certainly more complex than a 4-year-old boy would have an understanding of. As suddenly as the storm had arrived, so did a sudden shaking of the house. Windows began as if something large and was hovering overhead. It was then that Jason turned calmly to his parents, stated matter-of-factly, "They're waiting for me. I have to go." Paul struggled with his son, eventually succeeding in preventing him from leaving the family home, and as he did so, the shaking of the house ceased, and Jason appeared to be snapped out of his previous trance-like state. It was 8 years later when Jason suddenly began to tell his parents of strange beings who visited his bedroom at night, and that they had been doing so since the day of his 4th birthday. He would claim that he was always taken in a room by small beings, themselves under the control of a taller figure, all the while he remained paralyzed. While ravings or what? So what to make of it all? Even the most enthusiastic alien UFO researcher may struggle to fully embrace this theory. Ancient astronaut theorists will tell you that human-alien hybridization has been going on since antiquity. What's more, that many will point to ancient and religious reigns to back them up. The Immaculate Conception is seen as such an incident, what appears to be that of an act of divinity rather than an artificial implant of an embryo that contained extraterrestrial DNA. Mary's mind coerced to believe it was a claim she had experienced as opposed to an abduction or an impregnation. Others will be point where verse 1:4, Book of Genesis, which reads, when human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful and married any of them they chose. If we accept for one moment that the sons of God were actually extraterrestrials, then the verse would appear to state that interbreeding between their race and humans did indeed take place. The Book of Enoch also has various mentions of what some believe to be an alien race opposed to divinity or angelic. Perhaps one of the best examples is Lamech, father of Noah, who, when seeing his son shine, accused his wife of being imminent with the sons of God. Lamech, under instruction. Could be, very well be, couldn't it, folks? To do so, raised the child as if he were his own. A lot of these theories are easy to dismiss, and many people do exactly that without question. However, the amount of people saying that the same thing over the course of many, many years should be at least have some aspect of this subject and theory investigated thoroughly. The aforementioned David Jacobs, perhaps said it has been asked about the relevancy of his work. He stated that he would either be an interesting but non-essential footnote, or that it will ultimately prove to be the most important thing that's ever happened. Could very well be, folks? This has been a pretty good live stream so far. We've had people watching us going on for 1 hour and 7 minutes. I'm going to thank you all for joining me. We had some fun. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You, okay? The there is misspelled. It's T-H-E-R-E. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that like button so more people can see. It helps me fight the algorithm so more people can see my content. Please leave some comments down below because I love to hear from you guys, as well as please go share this video on Twitter and Facebook. Let's see. Also, please go over to Stitch Together Picks. Stitch Together Picks is a YouTube channel that deserves far more subscribers. You're going to love his reviews of movies. They are great. As well as go over to Creepy Little Book. Creepy Little Book is like the Art Bell radio show. He does these small videos talking about high strangeness, but he also live streams every night. He live streams on weekdays at 12:30 a.m. and weekends at 10 o'clock p.m. So go and subscribe. He talks about aliens and ghosts, so please go and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Also, please go over to rumble.com and subscribe to my Rumble channel. It is named Comic Freak. As well as go over to BitChute and subscribe to my BitChute channel. It is also named Comic Freak. Remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, 8 or 10 for another live stream. Well, 8, 9, or 10 for another live stream. I'm Chris Williams from the Scum Dogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me.